What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the PHNX Mercury podcast, where I would argue we have the best intro music across the entirety of all city. I ain't gonna lie, that song just fills me with joy and wakes me up from at times when it feels like Erica might be asleep by this hour. That song will play and boom, I'm re-energized, I'm awake, I'm ready to go. Welcome back to the PHNX Mercury podcast. I am your host, Erica Lee Day. I am joined by PG1, QB1, on and off the field, in and out of the studio, Stephen Pridgeon Garner. Man, that's the best. I've done that intro all season long, and we got a long season to go, so I know I'll just get snappier and snappier with that. And then I'm actually going to call him this today. Ball boy Gil McGregor.
Here go two more for
newest
you.
addition to the show. And obviously our guy, Kevin Thomas, behind the Mac, driving the bus, shooting the X's and O's. Well, pressing the X's and O's. Please don't shoot them because I feel like then we might not be able to have a show. But welcome back, or welcome to the PHNX Mercury podcast. The Mercury are 2-0 in the preseason. And, you know, do the games matter? No. But do they matter in a sense of basketball? Yes. So I'm excited. It was a fun preseason. Some teams haven't even played one preseason game. So I'm feeling #blessed. Our preseason is done. We already get to move on to a little tiny bit of a break before we move into the regular season opener next Saturday versus the Aces. Shout out to all of you for being in the chat. Shout out to all of you if you were at the game yesterday. I'm really excited to get into talking about some basketball. But how are you guys doing today?
Hey, whoa. I'm in a great mood. We just got a new member. Shout out Gus 210477, who just became a PHNX member. We appreciate that. We do MVP chance on the Sun show. Is that a transition we're bringing to the Mercury show as well?
Steven, one thing about me, you know I'm always down to yell. So
3, 2, 1.
MVP.
I knew it was.
They deserve it anyway.
Yeah, no, they still deserve it anyway for sure. Yeah, we appreciate you, Gus. Big time. We got a lot of content on the way. Season is in store. We'll be here in a matter of days. In addition to that, we also have Mr. Shane Young in the chat asking about vacations.
He's a big vacation guy, I've heard.
He's a big vacation
That's what
guy.
I've heard.
I'm not. Gil, I was going to say he's not, but leave that alone because he's going to not be here over the weekend. So I can't even press that button. But, yeah, we appreciate everybody. Deborah, Andy in the chat, Dolores in the chat per usual. A lot of our consistent peeps that show up are here. So we appreciate y'all. Let's have a good show.
Can't agree more. I'm stoked. Gil, I've been excited about this show all day long. It's no secret that I think that the Mortgage Matchup Center is one of a kind. It's an anomaly in terms of fan bases. And I'm excited because you got your first experience there yesterday for a Mercury game. And albeit for a preseason game against the Japan national team, but nonetheless, 7,129 people, if my memory serves me correctly. I feel like I'm right on the money, to be honest with you. But I feel like for a preseason game versus a national team where not many people, know the opposing team, it's a pretty good showing. So I just wanted to give you a second to talk about kind of your takeaways from your first night in the morgue.
So my first takeaway, I'm going to ask you if this is a bar. I've been workshopping this in my head.
Uh-oh.
I was thinking about it. Some fans add to the environment.
Mhm.
I feel like here, they are the environment.
That's a bar.
That's a bar. So I picked up on that pretty quickly, like from the get-go, from the starting lineups when they had their flashlights out on their phones. And as you mentioned, it was a preseason game. No stakes really, but the main thing was you could tell that it was a group of fans, a crowd that missed watching their team play. They hadn't had a chance to watch this team play in some months now. There was a point in time where we didn't know if we were going to be able to see this team play. So I think there was a level of appreciation and gratefulness that the season is upon us, and just the energy in the building, the call and response. Everything that you hear through the broadcast is made much cooler when you get a chance to see it in person and experience it in person and hear it in person. So I am so excited for what's to come on that front because, as Steven was telling me, it's like, you think this is something. Just wait till, a marquee matchup, a national TV matchup, a high stakes matchup comes. But it was unlike anything that I've experienced. And it definitely scratched an itch for me because I've obviously consumed a lot of W basketball over the past couple of years, but I have not been lucky enough to see it in person. I hadn't been to a W game in a couple years. So to kind of get back in that and experience it in that way, I'm excited for what's to come.
I like that. And I assume you heard the truck horn blaring through that
I,
arena. And
I did hear the truck horn. I heard the chant, like the engine for AT. We got all of this stuff happening, and it makes me more excited. Like when that, like the first truck horn, and like to make the other team call a timeout on like a national TV game. When I can't wait.
you'll ask Steven, the first time I heard that truck horn, I like banged him in the arm so hard I thought I was gonna bruise him. And I was like, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that?" Like, ah!
Yeah,
So yeah,
the lore of the truck is that we had Natasha Mack on the show before training camp, I think it was last season, and we like to think we played a part in the coming out of Natasha Mack's true personality and just everything that you got to see in post game.
I saw plenty of that.
Yeah, for sure. So,
and she gave us one on the way out.
Exactly.
I know that's right. Oh, I know that's right.
I also
it all started with a conversation we had with her about just the Mac activity and the energy she plays with. And she gave up a very, very, very subtle, it was like a whisper, it was like a honk, honk. And then it grew from that to what you now hear in the arena and see in post game, which is a very expressive honking of that horn to the point where now the team went from not really having a call out for her in particular. About 2-3 games into the regular season or preseason, it was last season. Now all of a sudden you're starting to hear this. So yeah. Influence, motion, whatever you want to call it, PHNX Mercury got it.
That's how legends are born. And I think that is no coincidence. I feel like just as that honk has gotten louder and she's gotten louder in doing it, her game has I know we'll talk about what we saw on the court, but I just think that goes hand in hand with like the confidence and just being yourself and like being fully yourself like that. Goes hand in hand with how you play on the floor too.
Natasha Mack, we see it.
I saw the flex. I saw the flex. I saw a flex or two last night.
Yeah.
I had the graphic ready. If she hit that double, she was 1 rebound away. I literally I was waiting for it. I was like, I had it ready, but
I'm sorry. This is very much off script. I just remembered. Also, the personality on Twitter, Natasha, it has bridged the gap between ambiguity of what's going on behind Mercury practice closed doors and bringing it to the light of public consumption. She calls out Sammy Wickham and says, "I'm beating Sammy in the 3-point contest this season." And lets it be known that she's already gotten close to it. And this is, I think she told you, Erica, she said, that's not a threat, that's a bet. It's something that's going to happen.
Is that a threat? Is that a threat? And she said, a promise. I said, my bad.
Can't wait to ask Sammy about that dynamic in particular. But I think the bigger picture thing for the confidence of everything we're speaking about with Mac in particular, I don't know if we would have seen her challenge a vet in really any capacity as far as that goes, just because of the respect level. I don't think the respect level has gone anywhere, but I think the confidence in herself has gone to an extent to where now she's challenging players on the roster that have a cachet and a clear-cut route to being some of the best that we've ever seen do specific things. And I imagine this is not the only instance of her challenging someone that's of that veteran ilk. I'm sure she's had multiple conversations with DeWanna Bonner and Alyssa Thomas about things, just in not hedging the leadership of them, but trying to continue it on to the next step. Can't get what you want if you're not doing something different. And Mac doing things differently continues to stand out.
Speaking of doing things differently, and speaking of getting what you want,
he speaks.
I got my mic.
Come from?
I got my mic, but also
you lit.
I promised Erica off air that we would have a special sound effect for one Mac, and I do have a honk honk. So this is the honk honk that we have for the rest of the season as a sounder Every time we talk about Mac.
I like laying
like
on the last
like
one.
it.
Is just
I like it.
listen. Let it be
We
known.
should have like a little truck run on the lower third every time it gets rolling too.
I like that.
That's what it sounds like in my car every time I drive to Phoenix and I have to deal with the road rage of I-10. But that's neither here nor there. I had a hoot and a holler last night. Some might have seen me on the Mercury Instagram account,
Yeah, the fans are going crazy. Look at that crazy fan right there.
I was hooting and hollering down there. I don't know if you guys saw me, but I had the whole row honking with their arms the whole time. My dad was a truck driver, and so like I still do this to truck drivers to this day. Like, please honk your horn at me, like please. And that's how I was last night at the game as well. Like, please honk, everybody get in. And they did. They listened, you know?
Need that. That's the energy you'll start to see a whole lot more of as these games grow closer to the halfway point, and then especially that post All-Star break stretch. Buckle up.
Buckle up
Yeah.
when you're driving the truck and honking.
Buckle up and honk that horn. Bars.
Buckle up if you're in Erica's car.
All on the same
Andy,
page.
I'm working on the Mac re-edition to the PHNX Mercury podcast. Don't you even worry about that. It's coming. It's in the pressure cooker right now, you know.
Okay.
But nonetheless, there was some basketball played. Corey Gaines was back in Phoenix coaching basketball, albeit not the Phoenix Mercury, but it was the Japan national team. And if you weren't aware, you know, Corey Gaines was a assistant on the 2007 championship team, as well as the head coach of the 2009 championship team. So a lot of history here in Phoenix. And I know Steven asked him about just exactly that. So I want to give him an opportunity to kind of discuss that very thing.
Yeah, it was just cool to have somebody a different capacity than Diana Taurasi, different capacity than years after that Brittany Griner, but somebody that was there from almost the inception point of the culture that we've seen extend past Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner's time with the franchise as players in particular. So got to talk with Corey about that in particular. He has some cool things to say, just in general about the franchise, how things came to be. Here's everything that he had to say yesterday.
It's good to come home. We put some banners up there, so it's always nice to come home, and this will always be my home because this is something that's important in my life, a stage of my life where I really got into coaching, started coaching, and was successful at it. So I started bringing the Japanese players here in 2009. You probably don't know that, but they practiced with us for 3 years straight, 2009, 10, and 11. And it was a big thing because we had a plan with the Japanese team, the national team, for the 2020 Japan Olympics, the COVID year. And that's when we won the silver. So it was a plan for them to come, and it kind of built up and it worked out right. So, but coming home, it's always a nice thing.
Yeah, so Corey, in multiple different capacities, recounted the time spent, what it meant to him and his coaching kind of foundation with Paul Westhead, and then independent of Paul Westhead as the head coach outright in 2009 for that championship win over Indiana, one of the best championship series the W has seen still to date. I think having that perspective on everything that the Mercury are is just another example of why there's such great reverence for what the franchise is in its history. That's why when you go, you can dip into the nostalgic throwback jerseys, and it gets the reception that it does because of everything that it entails from those moments wearing those jerseys and the players that don them as well. So really cool to see him speak about that. I think the other cool part about it is him speaking about the Japan women's national team in that era as he kind of came into head coaching with the team, and how that kind of doubled as him being in transition from the Mercury to going to work with the Japan national team on the men and women's side, but what he did for the women's team and how it's now come full circle with him now being the head coach.
The thing that comes to mind, or when I listen to him talk, the first thing was just saying this is always going to be home.
Yeah.
For somewhere, a franchise, a city, an area to leave an indelible mark on somebody, that says a lot. Now, winning helps. The second thing that came to my mind was that the saying, friends can come and go, but banners hang forever.
Facts.
And anytime he comes back here, he will always look up and see something that he had a part of. And what he had a part of is also like shown on the court, the culture of this franchise. On the throwback course, we're going to see that has everybody's name on there, many of whom were part of those championship teams. And I think about the fact that, as you were saying, bringing the national team that he was coaching, you don't just do that for no reason. You say, hey, look, there is something here. There is a standard that has been set here, that has been built here, that is being upheld here, that I want this program that I'm coaching to also follow. And we saw bits and pieces of that with the team, the way that they operated as a well-oiled machine. A lot of that credit goes to who he is as a coach. And a lot of who he is as a coach, as he would say, he can attribute back to those times, which were almost 20 years ago here. So I think it's a really cool full circle concept moment for him to see that, but also a reminder for us on the outside, for fans, for those who cover the team, and anybody in between, to recognize and appreciate the history, and especially with how important it is to appreciate the Trailblazers and the history of this league in this landmark 30th season. It's cool to hear him talk about that.
The other thing regarding like his personality is I feel like his players for the Japan national team yesterday really reflected that of his personality. And you go back to when they played the Aces in preseason as well. And I don't mean this in the derogatory way it's probably going to sound, but like they were all just happy to be there. They obviously they wanted to win the game, but like they were so dang happy to have that opportunity to play on this stage. And I think that really speaks volumes to who he is as a coach and how he can get his players in the right mindset going into a game like that. And I just don't think that's such an underrated quality, like getting your players in good mindsets. You know, we see that here with Nate Tibbetts, but then also to see it, you know, amongst on a national team stage is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And I think take it a step further from everything that both of y'all said, I don't think it's by accident or coincidence that if the team was coming over, they wanted to play the best of the best. Meaning that it's not by surprise that they decided to go up against not just the team that won a championship last season, but also the team that happened to go against the team that won a championship last season. They have something that they're clearly working towards, dating all the way back to 2009, like he mentioned. And it's very clear that he's trying to take not just bits and pieces in terms of style of play and stuff like that from what he had here in Phoenix overseas to Japan, but he's also trying to embed those kind of foundational qualities that allow for things to be sustained on a functionality level. And that standard of winning can't be the best unless you're going against the best, and you can kind of gauge the margin of difference from that. You can play hypotheticals to go against teams that are maybe close to that level, but you never know what's true until you do that, and I think that's not by happenstance.
Sorry, guys, I'm tapped into the League Pass on my laptop for the first time all season. And, you know, this multi-view thing, the lack of multi-view, I guess I should say. Shout out to the WNBA for completely ruining my beloved WNBA app and website while we're at it. But that's neither here nor there. Wasn't listed on the list of topics for today's episode. But before I move on to the basketball from yesterday, is there anything else on Corey Gaines before I skedaddle?
Always fun to dip into the nostalgia bag with the Phoenix Mercury, whether it be jerseys, players, coaches, championships, plural. There's a lot to glean from that, and I think they have arguably the most rich history in terms of everything that's come from everything that is Cheryl Miller to call outs that Gil was able to hear for the first time yesterday. A lot of that deriving from the inception point of the league as the Mercury being one of the blue chip franchises to obviously the Penny and DT era with Cappy and all of those fun characters that won multiple times over, Paul Westhead, Corey Gaines, to the after that era and everything that came with that. There's a rich history and a standard that I feel like, again, for Mercury fans, you all are spoiled rotten because of that. Don't look over that, enjoy it, and just continue to have fun with it.
Since you mentioned this nostalgia factor and the whole jersey thing, I think we should just go ahead and off rip mention these fire photos that the Phoenix Mercury put out today of the retro jerseys on AT, Kahleah, Dewan. They're fire. And I feel like especially considering this is the first time in WNBA history that there has been a retro throwback jersey. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on every team involved to get it right. And the Mercury have done exactly that. From
Mhm.
the rollout itself and the video, the hype video, the court, the whole 9 yards with that. But then on top of it, the pictures that they put out today of those new jerseys on the
Yep.
new era players. I
Mhm.
mean, ice cold. So this media team that they've got is cooking, and on top of it, the players look fire in the jerseys. It's just gonna be a really fun season, and then on top of it, to kind of ice it on the cake with retro throwback jerseys that look as sick as they do. I mean, I was telling anyone that would listen yesterday, I cannot wait to get my hands on these damn retro jerseys.
Mhm.
I cannot wait to get my hands on a retro jersey. And because you're right, Steven, like this is the richest history in the WNBA, 3-time champions. Like that's not by accident. And, it's not like the championship was in the last, 5 years. It's rich in history because they were winning in the 2000s and when the WNBA was kind of at its peak, to be quite honest with you.
Mhm.
So I, uh, I tip my hat to the Phoenix Mercury for the rollout of these throwback and retro jerseys.
Yeah, it's one thing to see him in a photo shoot, like just laid out on a set, or like maybe on a model or somebody who's not gonna be playing. But now to see At match him with the kicks that she'll be playing, and to see Kahleah do the same thing with the kicks she'll be playing, like to be able to actually see it in action. And I feel like for so long, I've wanted to see throwbacks in the league. And I think that the thing about it, though, is I'm glad that I'm not happy that it took this long for it to happen, but I'm glad that them taking this long for it to happen with throwbacks. One, they picked a monumental year to do so, but also they did it right.
Mhm.
And like the rollout being the right way, the photo shoots around them doing it the right way, the details on the uniforms being the right way. And back to what we were talking about with nostalgia, that was exactly what Cheryl Miller had said. She's like, immediately thought back to the memories that came up for her when seeing this set of uniforms. So now to be able to marry that past with the present and create new memories in these uniforms. And also what I will appreciate even more is that they'll get to wear them in action against some of the other original franchises, or wear them against Liberty, who will be wearing their classics in the same game. It'll be that real nostalgic feeling that will make me feel like the first couple. I remember watching the WNBA on NBC when I was like 5, 6 years old, and these teams were out there playing. So it'll keep me young, even though I'm doing the opposite. So
I was just about to make an old person joke, but you kind of made it yourself. So
yeah,
that
I get it. It's
taking
cool.
away my thunder, Gil. Like, I mean, we're only like a week into this, and you're already taking my thunder.
That's
That's
called me
low
just being in
key
the passing lane
crazy.
and denying right there. That was all.
Whoa! Not the Raven Johnson on my podcast. That's crazy. I'm
All
watching
defense
you,
first team.
man. Whoa. Then I know me
I'll
and
just,
Steven are the best PNR duo to ever exist on PHNX.
I'll just say, with the nostalgic jerseys, it's always cool. I think the drip matters optically watching the game, but it only counts for as much as you pour into the court itself with
Mm.
it. What good is it to have a cool jersey if the court is not matching said jerseys? If you're going to do the thing all the way. And the fact that each of these teams, I believe, all are also going to have an accompanying court to match the jersey. I'm really intrigued by seeing the way that the colors pop and the way that that just adds another dynamic to the way that the game is continuing to evolve. The W is doing it right on that front, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how those things kind of play out this season.
Well, I was going to say I'm going to fry ESPN after this quick break on the PHNX Mercury podcast, but I'm actually going to be really nice and respectful and demure today. So, right after this quick break here on the PHNX Mercury podcast, we're going to talk about actual basketball and talk about the ESPN top 50 players rankings that came out today. Right after this quick break. Don't forget. We all have times in life when we need to stick to a budget. Maybe you're saving up for something big and you need all your monthly bills to be predictable. To help you out with that, APS has their budget billing program. When APS customers sign up for budget billing, your payment is averaged out over the full year so that you can pay about the same for your energy bill every month. That gives you a more predictable payment, helping you plan and save. Learn more about budget billing and other options for managing your bill at aps.com/letstalk. branded bills, branded bills, branded bills, branded bills, branded bills. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of our good friends over at Branded Bills. If you're looking for some gear that makes your brand stand apart from the crowd, Branded Bills has you covered with the best custom headwear. Start your order and their dedicated team will help you create the exact custom apparel you need. I should have brought my fly PHNX hat in here for this particular read, but that's on me. That's on me. Whether you need snapbacks, truckers, fitteds, beanies, or tees, Branded Bills has you covered with performance and style. They have partnerships with over 40 universities, including ASU, U of A, and part of their campus collection, many other universities. Also
Like
partner
Wake
with the Phoenix
Forest,
Suns.
like
Not
Michigan
quite
State, like Illinois State.
anymore.
Nah, that's it for now. Those are the only ones that matter.
They also partner with the Phoenix Suns. They're a local company from Mesa, Arizona. Really good people. You can head over to brandonbills.com and use code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. The game yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I want to start with 22 assists yesterday versus Japan. And Steven and I, last season, we talked at length about unselfish basketball and what a good brand of basketball that is to have been being played in front of us. And it doesn't seem like the Mercury have really skipped a step in terms of sharing the ball and being unselfish and making the right reads and, making sure that the hot hand is being fed, even like Sammy in the first quarter. I'm thinking about Kahleah then thereafter because Kahleah has just been on fire through this preseason. But those 22 assists, like those spread even back down below, after that to the training camp contract people that we're going to kind of get ready to talk about here in a little bit. But I just think that they look extremely organized for being a team that does have so many new bodies on it. Because I mean, let's face it, after the top 6, everyone pretty much is brand new to the system. To have been as successful as they were in sharing the basketball, I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, I think the starters definitely came out and set that tone that you would desire for them to, from the parameters in terms of the tempo at which the game was going to be played. They didn't allow for Japan to really get out in transition to the extent that they maybe desire to. I think that's one margin that they definitely controlled. I think they just simply got up shots on goal. They didn't have issues with turning the ball over, which naturally helps as well. And to the shots on goal part, they also got the shots that they were looking for, that they wanted. Kahleah Copper coming off a little bit of movement and then maybe getting into a pick and roll in the rhythm that she wants to, and now she's knocking down 3 more threes or 4 more threes on top of the things that she did in the very first preseason game. Alyssa Thomas, no surprise to anybody, finding her way downhill, getting shots on goal at the rim. That's what you want. Natasha Mack getting touches around the basket, making things happen, getting after it on the O boards, all of those little things. Sammy Wickham, to your point, Erica, knocking down an open three, a couple open threes. But generally, everybody just kind of playing with a certain type of purpose, a certain type of force. It felt like they were there. It felt like they were sharp and understanding this would be their last live game opportunity against a different team to be able to kind of iron out some of those kinks and really just kind of get their ducks in a row, because they know what time it is come Saturday next week at 12:30 local time. And that's not going to be time to still be trying to figure things out. It's going to be time to come with it, because that team you're going up against, it's not by happenstance that you happen to be going up against them on their ring night. And you got to sit through all of that stuff to start your season. So you want to set a tone? That was your last chance to kind of get into that beforehand. And it starts to matter for real come Saturday next week.
So I'm going to start with two plays that stand out in my head. One, I believe it was Ashton Prechtel. She had 1 assist, and I believe on the play that she had the 1 assist, she passed up what would have been a really good shot for a great shot. And I think that mentality is something that you want to instill in your team pretty early on, and I think that we've seen that with this team already, and we know that that's kind of the environment that's fostered from top to bottom, coaching staff, players in the locker room. And I think that, again, you mentioned when AT is the person who everything runs through, everybody else is going to kind of follow suit. The other thing I was going to say is it could have been even better. Right? Like another play that comes to my mind was AT and DB were not on the same page on a backdoor cut, and it was a turnover. And AT finished with 7 turnovers in the game, and I'm not saying like, oh, we clean it up. Like, we'll talk about where she ranks among best players in the league here soon enough. But I'm thinking of the fact of this is preseason game 2. It's still training camp. There are still 9 days before opening night, which will be here before we know it, or opening day, I should say. Opening day, which will be here before we know it. But there are still things that need to be cleaned up between now and then. And the fact that even though still things need to be cleaned up, you are assisting, on the majority of your buckets. You have a good ratio of that right now. It's going to be even better moving forward. So I find encouragement in the fact that this mentality of sharing the ball, giving up good or really good for great, is already kind of permeating throughout the roster, and also knowing that this isn't even close to the final form of where this team is going to be as far as the offensive flow. And obviously I know that the level of competition is going to ramp up pretty quickly, but they're going to have time over this next week of practice, which they talked a lot about, to continue to clean things up. And I think that the product that we'll see on opening day is going to be good.
They still got 7 players
That
just
that
aren't
that
here
other
right
part,
now.
yeah, that's another important part of it too.
So yeah, I think it means a lot for them. I think the way that the kind of lay of the schedule has lined up for them, they don't have another game for to your point, 9 days. So as these players slowly start to triculate back stateside and get back to Phoenix in particular to start participating in what is the ramp up to regular season play, that's a little bit of stuff that they can hit the ground running with, because that tone has already been set with the players that are presently here. Now, what they make of the 7 players that are still yet to, or I think 6 now, because Cat Westbelt is back, but unfortunately won't be available. That's still good. Those players will be able to just kind of fall in line with that and just pick up that baton off of the tone that's been set from early part of training camp through the finish line of preseason games for them.
Well, and I think you mentioned a great point. Like, this is something that they're going to be able to build off of, and being that they're starting point guard, and I'm probably going to make an ass out of myself here because I am making an assumption, but I just have to assume that you don't let Monica Kalmakani come back to not be your starting point guard after the season that she had last year. So I am expecting that 22 assists is just going to grow and grow and grow throughout the season when you have players that like to play together, like these, 3, 4, 5, 6 in their even 7 at this point core players like to do. Like these numbers are just going to climb, and then on top of it, obviously AT, Ka, Dwana, Sammy, they're all going to play more minutes come May 9th, which is, I feel like it's right around the corner. So I'm expecting them to continue to kind of build on everything that they've been able to do in the preseason so far.
Yeah, and that's the fun part about all of that for me. Just kind of seeing some of these foundational habits of play and the things that they're deeming as non-negotiables just kind of come to fruition. You can start seeing bits of what it is, their style of play that they desire to evolve from last season to this season with. One of the biggest things for me is just the approach to offensive rebounding and everything pertaining to that. Kevo, we could go ahead and get the clip of Nate speaking about offensive rebounding, the value of it, and why he has a shifted approach from what was last season to what it is that they're doing now to kind of get some of those extra opportunities or keep an opposing team out of transitional offense. And here's what Nate had to say. With that for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the belief, at least in pro basketball since I've been around, like it used to be when someone takes a shot, we're sprinting back for transition defense. But analytically, all the numbers say the more that you crash, the more you slow people down. So, I think there's a little bit of a balance as young players coming in the league, role players, trying to, let them know this is how you can help impact the game, and it slows up the transition because you're kind of stopping the ball. But there's going to be challenges for DB and Ka and Sammy just because their whole career they've been told on the shot to get back, and so I understand that. We need to do a better job of creating more shots, but I also think it's like, who is the player you're asking to crash? So for me, there's a little bit of a balance to that. I mean, I would love for Kahleah to crash every time in DB, depending on where they're at. But I'm also pretty realistic in like who they've been their whole career.
Yeah, I think this is an important shift for the Mercury because last season, in terms of offensive rebounding during the regular season, only averaged 29% in terms of how many of their misses that they were able to gain. That was 9th in the WNBA. And in terms of second chance points, they were only at 10.4, which was 8th in the WNBA last season. Now, what really matters is when you're looking at it in a playoff lens. And to that point, last season, they were 6th in the 18 playoff race in terms of offensive rebound percentage at 25.9. So it fell off a little bit from what it was as a bottom third rank in the regular season come playoff time. And then the 10.4 points that they averaged in the regular season on second chance opportunities dropped down to 9.9, which was fourth in the playoffs, but that's a number that they want to significantly bump up. I think the possession game matters significantly for them. More shots on goal than your opponents, especially in tandem with the rate at which they forced opponents to turn the ball over. You put those two together and you're dominating the possession battle, it's going to be hard to beat this Mercury team. The points per possession for them, especially in the half court, was already really good. If they're getting more shots on goal while taking the ball away from their opponents to the extent they did last season, start to see a process that they're building out. And speaking to the process part, tagging up the definition you can see below, it's just a defensive transition or offensive rebounding technique that coaches are starting to use more, started overseas in Europe, and they're starting to employ it more on the college level and then W and NBA level as well. It's a way of kind of eliminating the lags or gray areas of a basketball game. So anybody that's hooped before, usually a shot goes up, coaches are yelling, get back, get back. What Nate was speaking to is, what about if you go against the grain some and you put pressure on your opponents? Because transition defense, if you're trying to get yourself set and the ball is coming at you, versus if a team has to panic just to get the possession, slows the game down, allows you to control those parameters. So see the definition below. And then, Kevo, as we get to the clips that we have, quick screenshots. So when I'm kind of watching games and you kind of pick up on things like this, it's always fun to see what teams do when a shot goes up. So this initial shot right here, we're watching Sammy Whitcomb take a shot. So the shot releases, goes from her hands. The Mercury have three players with essentially a foot on the three-point line. And you see their matchups from the Japan women's national team getting ready to start to box out. And as we get to the next clip, look at where those players that you saw started the possession versus the contact that they have with their direct matchups now. Offensively or defensively, you want to box out your matchups. If you have to box out, that means that nobody is leaking out in transition. And look at who's the closest to the other side of the court right now for the Mercury. Alyssa Thomas. That is a picture-perfect type of example of what tagging up is. You're just putting pressure on your opponent to have to put a body on you. If they commit a body to you, that means they're not leaking out in transition. That's the best way to kind of neutralize that. But by way of neutralizing an opponent's transition opportunities, you also give yourself a chance at competing for an offensive rebound. And then we got two more clips looking at the shot going up and then what's going on if the shot hits the rim. So you got a shot going up here from Kiana Williams. You see all of the Mercury players getting ready to work their way into position on leverage to put pressure on the Chicago Sky to potentially go get the offensive rebound, but to slow them from committing to transition on the other end. And as the shot hits the rim, look at where those bodies are in comparison to what they were as the shot was on way to the goal. All of these bodies committed is really muddy in the paint, and everybody's focused on trying to gain the possession rather than leaking ahead. Slow the game down that way, control the parameters, up the physicality. Those are ways that the Mercury can really dictate to their opponents, and I imagine this is going to be something that's key to them taking that house and farm for what they established last season to new heights, new levels, and sustaining it in a different way.
Yeah, think about
I have
like,
a Steven Studies question really quick.
oh yeah,
What's up?
Does this, uh, does it go in tandem with slowing down the pace of the game always, or
100%.
which is
Mhm.
what the Mercury want to do?
They don't want to slow it down for themselves, but they want to slow it down for their opponents. So everybody wants to run out in transition. You got all these elite Gabby Williams, Caitlin Clark, all these elite transition players.
24 ranked player Gabby Williams. Yeah,
Yeah,
my
that's
bad, my
crazy. We'll
bad.
get to that in a minute. But what about, they're looking at it as, what about if you just can't get out and run in the floor? And what about if, because you can't get out and run in the floor, now you have to play against their half-court defense, which was one of the best in the W, and then you have to deal with their pressure and pick and roll with AT and Mac flying around with activity, Monica Cole-McConney, Kahleah Copper. It builds up. It's almost like the run-on sentence point.
mm-hmm.
This is what we talked about on the Suns side. Nate Tibbetts spent time at the Suns facility. No, he wasn't there just for the vibes and just to watch them practice. He's picking up things and he's trying to reverse engineer it for his team on the women's side. And we're starting to see little bits and pieces of that kind of play out in their game process. And to your point, Erica, they're slowing opponents down, trying to control the possession game. And naturally, if you're doing that with the pressure on defense and then they're out and running and then they're picking you up full court, which we talked about a lot last season as well, there's no time for an opponent to breathe. And I feel like they have the roster to uphold that style of play and the ways in which they want to do it. But yes, to your point and to your eye, it is a keen thing to slowing an opponent down, but speeding the game up in their favor.
Just think about that. We're going to play our way. We're going to impose our will. We're
Yep.
going to run it up offensively and shoot somewhere between 25 and 35 three-pointers. But we're not going to let you get out and keep up with us. We're not going to let you do that. It's going to be really hard if you want to do that. Now, what you going to do? Good luck. I feel like that is something that when you think about the way we're looking at this team and when the way they approach the season and the way that they create advantages. We talk so much about creating advantages in the margins, and this is something that might seem marginal, but a bunch of small margins. I said it before, small numbers add up. That's what's going to be. So I'm
Larry June.
shout out Larry June. So I'm excited to see how that kind of manifests itself. As existing, it's perfect. He said it better than I could myself.
Wow, is there a word for like a tag team with 3 people in it? I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to do some due diligence into that.
It's like
Via
it's
my
like a weave.
WWE
You know, how we've going.
It is. Clever word choice with tag team, because that's what we are speaking about. It's what the Mercury are doing. They're tag teaming on the offensive rebounds, and they're trying to your point, Gil, impose their will every chance they get. I thought it was also interesting before we transition with Nate's comment. He also said he understands that it's an untraditional kind of principle that he's establishing, and that he knows that it's not going to be easily received, even if they're bought in, for a player like AT or a player like that Dewana or a player like Kahleah or Sammy even to acquiesce and be able to just apply it right away. It's something that's going to have to be kind of massaged into their game process, because those players have all been in the league for quite some time. They've all also won at a high level. You get habitual with certain things. Shot goes up, you're thinking, all right, I got to get back. That's the principle. Like, nah, that's not it. They want you to go against the grain a little bit more. And it's going to be fun to really see that play out. And I think of those 6 players that they still have that are going to be coming back from overseas, I'm pretty sure all 6 of those players, in whatever capacity they're in the rotation, is going to be a piece that they're able to kind of impose on the game. I'm really imagining Monica Cole-McConaughey being sneakily good with these kind of hustle plays, if you will. Just getting a tap out that either leads to a team having to be significantly slower getting to their offense, or just outright winning those offensive rebounds.
And the defensive physicality of yesterday, from whether it be the starters or down stretch to the rotational pieces that come after them, I feel like was there. And obviously there were some mistakes for sure, but I feel like that's what you want in a preseason game, because then everybody involved can learn from them. And the rotations were good. It's not like there were huge glaring mistakes that me, the eye test girl, can see. It's stuff that you, the analysts, are going to look at and go from there, where the team can really grow from that. And they created control without necessarily needing chaos. And I feel like Steven and I used that word a lot last season, like controlled chaos. And while it was still definitely a controlled chaos in a sense, it wasn't quite as chaotic as it maybe was last season.
Yeah, Erica, that's a great point. And to the point, tagging up is very much a controlled chaos element. There's going to be a lot of possessions where a shot goes up, and instead of seeing people trying to get into the lane in transition, you might see 10 bodies condensed inside the three-point line, if not outright in the paint. And then for anybody that hoops, it's like 32. And everybody's trying to go and get after it for that rebound. And if you got 10 people on the court, it gets really messy. It gets really mucky. And I think that's the parameters that the Mercury want to play games off of, to your point, Erica. To the point, I think they had 9 offensive rebounds in the very first preseason game against Chicago. They had 12 last night. They only had but so many games last season where they were above 9. So them being able to just marginally chip away at that collectively is something that's really going to shift things for them. And again, to Erica's point, when you're thinking about, okay, Nate Tibbetts said he wants to get up more threes, and he said, like mentioned on Twitter, Gil, let it rip. Letting it rip is really awesome as a process. What are you doing to give yourself more opportunities to do that? One of the best ways, one of the highest quality three-point shots you can get outside of outright transition offense is from an offensive rebound. So if you're able to kind of manipulate the game to getting more of those opportunities on the terms in which you want to do so, You have a Mercury team that was the best transition team on offense last season, especially when it came to generating and making threes. What if they're getting doses of that as well, just by way of getting extra possessions on offense? It's a lot to deal with right there.
I'm thinking about defenses, and we talk about imposing your will and playing with force and making people play to your terms. And I think that's something I'm going to have an eye on throughout the season. Are ways in which, and we think about like chaos, and you're making people uncomfortable, and the ball's flying all over the place, and it's turnovers and this and that and the third. But on the flip side, you kind of talked about shots late in the shot clock, shot clock violations, dead ball turnovers, illegal screens, offensive fouls that are happening because you're just frustrated and out of control. All of these things that will happen to an offense when they're just uncomfortable because you're controlling it and you are making them play the way that you want them to play. And in some ways, not always, I'm not just saying this is the end all be all, the one straight way. There's no one way to do it. But in some ways, you could argue that that is more sustainable than trying to go about the chaos. Because sometimes when you're trying to create so much chaos, you get looped into it as well. You see it all the time. So I'm very intrigued. Again, the small thing, just limiting what a team can do in transition is a way to just control that aspect and that facet of the game. And I think the better you are at doing that, more and more often that you are able to play games on your terms, which is the mark of a successful team.
Yep, and that's exactly how the Mercury got all of those wins, both in the regular season and when it mattered most on the playoff stage. They played those series against the teams that were in the finals the season before, and the Liberty first and then the Lynx after that. They played those games maybe not outright fully in the game on their terms, but in the meaningful pockets, to close quarters, to close halves, at the end of games. The overtime game, I think it was game 3 against Minnesota or game 2 against Minnesota where they were behind. I think it was game 2. And then they stormed back in the second half, reversed the ties of the game. Like they bent the game into their will and played it on their terms after it just wasn't that prior to then. And that's how you end up getting to some people improbable finals run, but to people that watched them all season, wasn't a surprise. They just did what they did all season long, and they just continued to find those pockets of meaningful moments. That's the test of a team that knows what they're doing and how to go about doing that over the course of a game.
Before I move into taking a poo-poo all over a 4-letter network that's not named PHNX, do we have anything else related?
Shout out Kiana Williams, man. Continue to press that button, continue to tap that sign. Just give her a little bit more of the attention that you were prior to the start of preseason for the Phoenix Mercury. I think her role is going to be significantly valuable, and I think she's going to strike an accord very similar to someone that plays for the Toronto Tempo that has ingratiated herself very well with that fan base in the ways in which she is hooped. Lexi Held is hooping up there in the North, and I think that Kiana Williams, they're not the exact same player, but I think the ways in which they can impact the game in a Mercury context will be very similar. I imagine Kiana is going to have bits and bouts with kind of winning over fans based off of that alone.
Really quick on the Lexi Held of it all, I was kind of heartbroken yesterday watching all the highlight reels that were popping up on my timeline. But in the same sense, like not only me, but I know the fan base in general, they really trust the scouting of overseas players because of gets like Lexi Held. So I'm really thankful that not only has it worked out for us while they were a part of the Phoenix Mercury, but then it continues to work out for other teams that then take the players in free agency or expansion drafts or however it may shake out. But I think it just speaks volumes to this coaching staff and what they're capable of seeing with a blind eye and then pulling in free agency, and then on top of it, also developing them while they're here as well. So definitely invaluable.
Lexi was one of the players where I was like, yeah, appreciated her efforts last season, enjoyed covering her last season. I'm not going to see you again next season. I just knew somebody, and it's no surprise when you look at the personnel up there in Toronto that they plucked her away from the Mercury roster by way of the expansion draft. I'm not surprised in one bit that she ended up getting that opportunity, and she's running away with it up there.
If only she hadn't got her punctured lung last year, and
she was in
I hate to play the what if race. Right. I really hate to play the what if game that much, but oh my God, man, what if she was such an important part of the team before that happened, and then she has to get on a damn train to come back to Phoenix and then was never the same. And I hope you don't think I'm faulting her for that, because that's by far away not what I'm doing. But oh my gosh, what a difference maker for our roster last year that was, and Lexi held. Now, Steven, this morning, I get a notification. I'm like, new tweet from PHNX Mercury. What's that? And I see what it is. It's a Steven retweet of the ESPN rankings for the top 50 players in the WNBA preseason. Yeah. Now, before you make me out, well, not you guys in general, but like anyone makes me out to be just this ESPN hater through and through, I saw Nikias's tweet. He is right. It's really hard to do a player ranking already, but then on top of it, to do a player ranking in conjunction with other people, it cannot be easy because there's bound to be some disagreements. The eye test never fails, and to me, and the eye test never fails to Steven, the eye test never fails to Gil, and then we're all arguing about eye tests. And so I understand why there might be some folks that maybe are ranked a little lower than I believe to have been. Gabby Williams is actually a prime example because 24th is absolutely diabolical. I mean, just ridiculous, but whatever. That's neither here nor there because Gabby Williams unfortunately doesn't play for the Phoenix Mercury. And I do mean that, unfortunately. But we got Dawana Bonner coming in at number 47. We've got Kahleah Copper coming in at number 12 and Alyssa Thomas coming in at number 2. What I will say about this list is that I took a look back into last season and into what those player rankings were. And Kahleah was ranked number 10. And that's actually the only place in this particular trio that the ranking really loses me is 12 for Kahleah. But I feel like with the context that Steven and I have gotten pretty good at applying over the last 3 years, I feel like it's understandable. That said, I do envision Kahleah being listed in top 10 at the beginning of 2027. And I don't mean that in the disrespectful tone it probably comes off to the ESPN people, but generally speaking, like she was at her highest usage rate ever in 2024, plus highest usage rate in the league in 2024, and she was ranked 10th best in the league. Now I think the pieces around her in that year in 2024 were a little more unique. Obviously, you're playing alongside DT in her final season, playing alongside BG in what ended up being her final season with the Mercury. And then on top of it, you've got Cloud. It's a whole different roster. So I think there's a lot of context to that 2024 season and why she was ranked at 10. But I also think going into this season in 2026, like she has tons of room to move up in that list. I won't say number 1 because A'ja Wilson is, for a good reason, unanimous number 1 on that list. But I do think Kahleah Copper will put a lot of people on notice to exactly who she is, who she has been, who she always will be, and the type of scorer that she can be and the type of defender that she can be. And right there actually is where I should stop. I think this list, with the objection to Alyssa Thomas, with the exception of Alyssa Thomas, I think this list kind of really undervalues defense in a lot of ways. And I think you see that by like Alana Smith being ranked at 33, considering she's coming off of a co-defensive player of the year award. Like, I don't know how that's possible. So I think, we've talked about ad nauseum that like defense wins championships. And so you want those high-level defenders on your team. You've got Alyssa Thomas, you've got Kahleah Copper, and you've got Dawana Bonner all ranked within the top 50. But I think that said, all 3 of them and their rankings, well, except AT, really, really, really undervalue the defensive pressure that they bring to each team that they've been on.
I know you're talking defense. I always want to say with Ka, 36 points in 37 minutes in 2 preseason games is
a whole lot of this going on.
That's
going on.
It's pretty efficient. I would say it's pretty good as far as the points per minute thing goes. But on the topic, just generally speaking, both sides of the floor, you remarked to me last night with Ka, you can see a different demeanor, a different fire in her, the competitive nature, the frustration with officiating, all of those things that are there for preseason tune-up number 2, still over a week away from the regular season beginning, and you're playing against Japan's national team, and all of that is there. That is the mentality and approach from a player who is going to give everyone no choice but to put them back in that top 10. Completely expect that. I am excited to see with that, because I'm sure that in her head she doesn't really put much into what people outside are saying, but these are professional athletes. It's bulletin board material personally. Oh, you don't think I'm top 10? I'll show you a top 10 season. So I think that, one, I'm disappointed that she didn't necessarily get the respect that I think she warrants with where she stands in this league. I also acknowledge exactly what Nakai said. It's hard to get a group to have a consensus on that. But, man, I'm excited to see how she comes out with the chip on her shoulder, looking to kind of prove that for herself, and also knowing that it's about winning for her and everybody else in that locker room. But if she's playing and having a top 10, top 7 season, team's going to be winning.
For sure. I think, honestly, after having spent time and watched Alyssa Thomas play basketball, AT thinks she's the best player in the league.
That's the mentality you're supposed to have.
Hey, when you go and do the historic things that she did last season on both sides of the basketball, this is not a knock to A'ja Wilson. I think that A'ja Wilson is and has been the best basketball player in the WNBA for the last 4 seasons. I also think she's just outright in the GOAT conversation at this point. You do the things she's done.
No disagreement here.
And it's still not at the peakest of her powers. She's that. But I also think that there's a competitive edge that you should have, that if you are in the conversation for that, you should have multiple bits of your game that give you confidence, and not just believing that you could be, but that you are outright the best player, and you can be that on the court with literally anybody. And needless to say, Alyssa Thomas believes that. And I think her overall impact on the game, but also the intangibles of raising a floor and the ceiling at the same time, they suggest that she should be that. So Alyssa definitely believes she should be number 1 on the list, considering everything she did last season. Kahleah believes that she should definitely be in the top 10. I'm not mad at that. We just got done talking about that on our last episode, so I don't need to dive into that too much, but I think talk about the consensus nature of doing a team ranking of players in the league. It's not going to be always what everybody believes. It's just going to be kind of the sum of the parts and what they vote on. The Mercury are one of only 4 teams that has 2 players in the top 12. Indiana Fever, obviously Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell. You got the New York Liberty, obviously, with Stewie and Sabrina Ionescu. Obviously, you got the Aces with Jackie Young and the biggest of A's, A'ja Wilson. And then you got the Phoenix Mercury with Kahleah Copper and Alyssa Thomas. It's a pretty good conversation of peeps to be having in that fold. Of those names in the top 12, though, the ones that are ranked ahead of Kahleah Copper, you got Kelsey Mitchell. The names that I want to bring up, you got Kelsey Mitchell, you got Kelsey Plum, you got Paige Beckers, you got Alicia Gray. You know how much stands a Big Al we are. You got Jackie Young. Those are the names I want to bring up most. I'm not speaking for Kahleah Copper. I'm speaking from my watching eye. And I would say that the season Kahleah Copper had last season, because she did have bouts with injuries, if that's how you get to number 12, cool. But I also know what I've seen when Kahleah has gone up against said players. And I've seen her get the most of these players in multiple bouts, including in how players are being put into the depth chart to represent the country with them 3 letters across the chest. And we also saw who was out there with that championship trophy on the line and the gold medals and everything that came with that. And who was it that rose to the top? That was the young lady from North Philly. So I'm not trying to go to bat. I'm not pinning anything against anybody.
You just telling us the facts that's been presented. So
simply saying that all of these names were in the mix, in the fold in some capacity. Only one of them got that type of cachet about themselves, having been the engine for an offense that's won a championship before in 2021. Not far away. She was the best player on that team when it mattered most. They had a certain number 3 on that team. That's an all-time great. Arguably the best player to ever touch the court. There's a lot there that I'm just saying, gonna have a lot of fun watching the Phoenix Mercury play basketball this season. And that number 2 young lady is also gonna be gonna be fun to see. I'm looking forward to it.
I was gonna say, one thing I was gonna say is these facts that have been presented to you, they've been presented to everybody else too. So you just gotta really think about it critically and see all these things. It's not hidden.
Mm-hmm.
Those games are available for everybody to watch. You can go back and watch them in the archives. And when you finish watching this on YouTube and you like and subscribe and everything like that, you can go and just type it in the search bar.
Mm-hmm.
Kahleah. Yeah, it'll autofill after that. But all of this is available for you.
I mean, the biggest stamping you can get at this present moment. What did A'ja Wilson, of all the things she could say in her walk-off, she said what she said.
Mm-hmm. In front of a national audience.
In
and they didn't press
the world. In front of the world.
The international audience. And they ain't pressed the mute button fast enough.
Not at all. And then the head tilt and then the walk-off. I'm just saying, that stuff doesn't happen just sporadically. It's not a coincidence. Yeah. There's multiple documentable moments of that.
Heard you.
Yeah.
I
Gonna have some fun.
Gonna
have some fun with this WNBA season.
Whenever I use that picture of A'ja walking off the I get so irritated, like when I send it to someone and they obviously don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm like, you don't watch the Olympics? You didn't watch the gold medal team? Are you serious? At my office complex, my neighbors 3 different times during the Olympics came to knock on the door to make sure no one was breaking in because I was hooting and hollering in the office too much. And you mean to tell me you missed out on that? That just ain't right. That's just not right. But nonetheless,
I think just real quick, how spoiled are we? We got to watch Steph Curry do what he did. And then we also got to watch in tandem with that on that stage for that particular medal, Kahleah Copper do in her own respect the same team. Team needs a spark because the other team is bringing smoke. Same matchup and everything. A lot of Spider-Man meme.
Mm-hmm.
And you got these two players going out and doing what they did, putting the country literally on their respective backs and bringing that bad boy home again. We're spoiled. And I'm not going to let that be lost on ears and eyes because it happened a little bit of time ago. That's special, and I think that says a lot about each one of those two individuals. Just winners. The best, most concise way to put it. Winners.
Well, guys, I think we've done a pretty incredible job today. I'm pretty stoked because we actually have our shows scheduled for the next 2 weeks. So I can actually confidently say next Thursday, 5:30 p.m., be here, be square, because we're going to be back in front of your screens. Gil might not be. I don't know. Mr. Vacations over there. Oh.
I will. Thursday, at least.
Wow, clock that. I'm stoked to hear that, Gil. I'm stoked to hear that. So be here or be square on Thursday at 5:30. But in the meantime, be sure to leave a like, leave a thumbs up, 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Actually, I was told that I need to really push the fact that we have audio only listening options available over on iTunes, Spotify. I don't know if they do podcasts on iHeartRadio, but I'm pretty sure they do. So all those listening places, you can go tap in. Search in PHNX Mercury. You can follow us on there. Leave us a like. Subscribe over there.
And make sure you tell a friend of a friend of a friend's friend and that friend's friend too about our show because nobody else is covering the Mercury the ways in which we do or as thorough as we do or as consistently as we do. We want to just continue to cultivate community. We're not doing this just because we like looking at ourselves on the camera. Y'all have a franchise and y'all have a fan base that really is fired up about its franchise. We're trying to continue to extend opportunities to enjoy the game as much as you want to. And we're just trying to play a part in that. So tell your friends that we can all be friends and we can all enjoy Mercury basketball together and do so in a way that maybe the external of the franchise itself we haven't seen quite yet. We set a lofty bar last season, I would say. Erica and I with the work we did with Kevin. We got Gil along for the ride this season.
Let's do it.
Y'all bring y'all friends. We added a friend. Now y'all add some friends, and let's have some fun.
Leading by example.
Gil,
hey, that's it.
Leading by example.
That's it.
It's not your birthday, is it, Gil?
Saturday. So Ayrton's officially the first person to tell me.
It don't count because it's not official yet.
It doesn't count yet.
That's crazy, Kevo.
I appreciate y'all.
We gonna sing happy birthday now then if that's the case?
Oh no.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Gil. Happy birthday in advance to you.
Appreciate y'all, people.
All
Appreciate
three of
y'all.
us singing a different happy birthday song is frying me.
The birthday medley.
The birthday sampler is crazy.
Like I appetizer sample just for birthdays.
Well, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been really fun. We're going to be back on your screens next Thursday at 5:30. Plus, we have a special edition post-game show for the season opener after the Las Vegas Aces. I'm feeling super, super stoked. Ayrton's from the future. I'm from Tucson. They're from Phoenix. We've been the PHNX Mercury podcast. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Erica Lee Day. Be sure to follow Steven at StevenPG3. You can follow Gil at Gil McGregor _. Bang! You can also follow our producer, Kevin, at Kevo Post, and you can follow all of us hooting and hollering, PHNX _Mercury on Twitter, where you can be kept up to date all the time with anything going on Planet Mercury. Until then, we will see you guys next week. Bye!
We all silly like the mayor.